Hi, Vanessa Lesniak here from the Pigeon Letters Design Team, back for another tutorial. So last month I gave you a moon in watercolor, and this month I am bringing you a moon in Procreate. Now this is completely different for me, digital, who would have thought? But this is the moon that we are going to digitally paint today. Hope you like it. Okay, so to begin with, our canvas is going to be 3000 by 3000. And if you want to make this higher quality for like printing or anything, I would up the DPI to about 600 minimum. Okay, so we are going to change the background color to black. I don't know why I clicked here, but you don't have to do that yet. Just go into your layers, go into the background layer, and double tap the lower right hand corner, and that'll automatically give you black. The first brush that we are going to use is the dry ink brush, and you can find that under ink and dry ink. I'm going to up the brush size to 100% and use white. So I'm going to draw a funky little circle, hold it down with my other finger, and it turns it into a perfect circle. So instead of filling in like this, I want to have a lot of texture. The dry ink brush has tons of texture in it. So I am going to manually color it in. And this is going to give me all of the little nooks and crannies that the dry ink brush has. And I really like to take my time. It's very rare that I fill any digital painting with the color drop tool. I really like to take my time and just color. It's really relaxing, so I suggest you try it too. Also the texture. So just completely color the circle in. Once you're done with the base painting, you'll see that this brush provides lots of texture for your moon. So once that's done, we are going to create a new layer. We're going to be working in many layers here. So create a new layer, switch your color to black, and switch your brush to the soft brush, which can be found under airbrushing. Head on back to that layer and bring down the opacity to about 64%. And to do that, you just press the little N and bring that opacity down. Now with this soft brush, we are going to create a really soft shadow on the moon. And this is going to be part of the basis of our craters. So just some soft shadows, and you can do them all around. Don't cover up too much of the moon. We're going to be working in lots of layers, so there's time to add depth. Now I'm going to be using the asphalt brush, but I realized that this is a brush that I purchased. So another one that's very similar is the rusted decay brush, and it's under industrial. And using black, I'm just going to very lightly brush it over the entire moon. Don't press too hard. Use a very light hand. Now we are switching to one of my absolute favorite brushes, and it's called the Bonobo chalk. I think that's how you pronounce it. And we're using black still, and we are going to up the percentage to about 27, and we are going to go over it again, or go over the entire moon again with this brush just to give it some more texture. And when you're going over the moon with these initial brushes, use a very light hand. Don't press down too hard because you don't want to completely cover the moon in black. Now I'm going to lower the brush size to about an 11%, and I am going to press just a little bit harder using that same bonobo chalk, and I am going to add more depth into the moon. and I am strategically placing it not too close to the edge and not completely in the middle. So we're gonna have some darker areas, we're gonna have some lighter areas, but I really want to leave the outer edge of the moon nice and bright, and I want to give it a lot of depth. So in order to get those darker areas, press down just a little tiny bit harder on with your Apple Pencil and experiment with it. You can see here I added a perfect circle, and I am making it great. How do you say that? Gradiated out a little. But yeah, just experiment with your brush. Add a lot of texture to it. Add a lot of dark and light spaces. Okay, next layer. We're switching back to a white brush, and for this one we are going to use one of the pigeon letter brushes, and this brush is the charcoal round brush, which is part of the brush lettering pack. With this brush I'm going to draw a little white circle closer to the bottom, and that is where we're going to have like our lines and stuff spiraling out of it. Okay, we are lowering the brush size of the brush, and I think about 4 or 5% will work well. We're going to also put this on a new layer because we are going to lower the opacity of this. But we're going to keep it high for now so that we can see what we're doing. So we are making the lines, the striations, out of the middle circle that we just drew. And make sure to curve those lines so that they follow the curve of the moon. And you'll see here that I am letting it flow out of the moon. That's okay. We're going to erase that later. So make as many or as little lines as you want, and then go back in and erase anything that fell out of the moon. And since this is a new layer, you don't have to worry about being precise. Just get it out of there. Now we are going to lower the opacity to about 50-ish, 50%, so that the lines aren't so bold and so like white and in your face. We're going to lower the brush size a little bit more and then make some smaller lines. Now this is completely up to you. If you wanted to leave it as is, you can. If you wanted to make the thinner lines, then lower the brush size a little more and add some more lines. Again, completely up to you. So this is still a little too bold for me, so I'm going to lower the opacity even more to about 30, 32, 33%. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay, new layer. Yay. So we are going to continue using the same brush, and we are switching to black. So for this, I am going to manually draw in some really dark areas. And I mean dark. And it's okay if it looks out of place because we're going to blend this in just a bit. So find some of those areas where you added in some of that darkness and add some more. So we're going to use our smudge tool, and make sure your smudge tool is set to the dry ink brush because this is going to give us that texture that we have been working with. So it won't completely smudge it and blur it. It'll just smudge it into this nice texture. So smudge out the edges. Don't press too hard because you don't want to get rid of too much of that black. But smudge out some of the edges so that it blends seamlessly into the rest of the moon. And then continue doing this. You can switch back and forth between the pencil and the smudge tool to add those areas of really extreme black, and then blend out the edges with that smudge tool using the dry ink brush. Okay, once you are satisfied with the level of darkness that you've added into the moon, you're going to start a new layer. We're sticking with that same brush. However, we are going to go and use white. So as you can see, we're just switching between black and white. So we're going to take one of those dark spots, highlight the bottom of it, and then smudge it out a little so that it's a nice blend into the rest of the piece. And we're going to add a new layer, and we are going to add some more lines coming out of this little tiny area. So we're adding a new layer so that we can lower the opacity, just like we did with the huge striations or the huge marks. And we're doing the exact same thing except on a smaller level. So lower that opacity. We don't want it bold and in your face. And there you go. You have another little area where the moon is just kind of branching off there. Okay, new layer. This time we are switching back to our favorite, the bonobo chalk. And I have it listed under my favorites because I use it quite often. And I'm just showing you the texture there again. So we are bringing up that brush size. And once again, we are going over the entire thing with the bonobo chalk in white. Okay, new layer. This time we are switching brushes again, and we are going to be using the glimmer brush, and that you can find that under luminance. Once you have that brush set, we are setting it to luminosity so that it can be nice and bright. I'm bringing up the brush size so we can have nice big dots or nice big stars. This really gives you like some stars effects. And we are going over the entire moon with it. I'm also bringing it up all the way and then just tapping in a few of those bigger pieces. And once again, as we did before, erase anything that falls outside of the moon. And since this is its own separate layer, it'll be really easy to erase anything out of it. Once I'm done with this, I realized that I forgot to blend out that little circle that we made. So find your little circle and use your smudge tool and blend it out. Now, the smudge tool was set to dry ink, remember, and that's why it's not really blending the way that I want it. So first thing we're going to do is I want to draw a dark circle around this white circle. So I'm using the same brush that I was using before. I'm drawing a dark circle around it. But when I go to smudge it, I am changing my smudge brush from dry ink, and I'm going to do that in a second because this is when I realize it. I'm switching it from dry ink over to the soft brush. And the soft brush will give me just a nicer little blend in this area. But this is really the only area that we're going to use a soft brush to blend. See? Looks so much better, doesn't it? You guessed it, new layer. Go all the way to the top and add a new layer in there. And this time we are switching brushes again. We're using white. Make sure that you put it to white. And we are using the Splatter brush found under spray paints. I am setting it all the way to the very top to 100% for the brush size. And I am just going to splatter. And this one comes out pretty dark, right? Pretty opaque. So in order to combat that, well, first let's erase the outside, okay? we're going to erase everything that fell outside of the moon. And once all of that is erased, we are going to again lower the opacity so that this part isn't so like bright and in your face. It doesn't look like the moon got splattered with paint the way that it does now. We don't want that. We just want a subtle texture. So once you are completely done erasing the outside, then go ahead and lower the opacity to about, 45 to 50%. What? Another layer? Yeah, another layer. We are going into black again this time, and we're going back into the first brush that we used, which was the dry ink brush. And now I am setting the brush size all the way up to 100%, and the dry ink brush can get very, very dark. So I am not using like the very tip of my brush. I'm kind of using it at an angle so it can give me a softer, more subtle look. And I am bringing back in some darkness to the areas that were dark before. Once you have as much dark as you want, we are going to go back to our pigeon letters charcoal round brush, and we are just going to add a couple of really bright outlines to the dark spots. So just add a couple of squiggles. We're not really going to blend these in. These are just going to kind of stand alone. So we're adding in some nice white areas along some of the dark spots. We're adding in even along some of the spots that are not as dark as the ones we just added. We're just adding in a couple of highlights here and there. Be creative. You don't have to be sparse about it. You can add as many as you want and just add them in. And yeah, just have fun with it. Be creative about it. Okay, switching back to black. And we are switching brushes once again. I know, why are we switching? Why are we using so many brushes? I know, but this is good. This will help you get to really know your brushes. So we're going back to the dry ink brush. And again, I am just going back in. So I'm just switching back and forth between adding in some dark and adding in some light and just putting in like the final little details here. So have fun with this. Okay, once you're done adding in all of your little details, then you're really done. You're done with the main part of your moon. So you can merge all of those layers together. Isn't that so satisfying? I absolutely love that. So merge all those layers together and then go to the top layer, right? Your moon layer. Add another layer on top of it and then bring that layer down right under the moon because we're going to add a couple of stars into the background of your moon. So our final brush is going to be the Pigeon Letters Splatter brush. This is going to give us some really nice stars effect. We are setting that layer to luminosity and you can experiment with how big or small you want the stars, but you're just going to tap in just inside the moon and you'll see that beautiful little splatter effect and it just looks like the moon is surrounded by stars. And there you go. I hope that this wasn't too complicated. Just have fun with it. Experiment with different textures and layers, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.